Peter, I think it's too late for that.
Oh, don't let the press put the scare into you. Wade v. Boggs has not been overturned.
Oh boy, the most common phrase you will be hearing in this video is, God, I'm old. Haven't done a video like this in a while, but they are pretty fun and they help me stretch my brain. Hi, I'm Kitty Monk and I'm here to talk to you about Family Guy. Or more specifically, their episodes, well, they're episodes that have aged the worst. Now, Family Guy has run for literal decades at this point, with lots of highs and lows and highs and lows. And as a result, some takes haven't exactly aged the best. There's minor stuff like references, since Family Guy's humor is mostly referential if they aren't doing stereotypes. And then there's the bigger things, like maybe how an episode presents a topic, or what they say. But I'm stalling because I have a lot of fun stuff I want to get to. So let's discuss. Here are the Family Guy episodes that aged the absolute worst, starting with
Peter. Right now I could be in Boston pretending I give a rat's ass about Vivaldi.
Yeah, and I could be getting felt up by Kevin. Now, Meg, don't you give it all away up front. Make him work for it.
But I think we all thought that life in the 2000s would be way different and be post-apocalyptic. And when that didn't happen, we said that 2012 would be that way. And my anxiety-ridden, naive, gullible kid-ass honestly thought that stuff would happen and that the movie 2012 was a documentary. What's the next supposed apocalypse date so I can mark my calendar? In 1999, the big apocalypse was that once January 1st hit, then all the computers in the world would fail at once in a scenario called Y2K. And because stuff like nuclear codes were governed by computers, yeah, hell would come to us.
At midnight, every computer in the world is gonna fail. Planes will fall out of the sky, and all the world's nuclear weapons will explode, annihilating the entire planet.
In a nutshell, yes, this was a real fear, but one that we mostly solved before the deadline by working around the clock to solve. I mean, some stuff did happen, but it was mostly small and cosmetic. But many people at the time, especially conspiracy theorists, thought that once midnight hit, we'd be living in Mad Max. This episode runs with that premise, and kinda like King of the Hills episode, it's a great way to see what people thought at the time. As Family Guy performs a non-canon what-if of sorts, Peter is warned by a man that the Millennium Bug will happen, and he needs to prepare his whole family for it.
Peter, if you want to stay here, that's fine. But we're going to the party. Kids?
Honey, are you pregnant?
No.
Peter listens, and of course, the Millennium Bug happens, along with a bunch of nuclear launches and the like. And the Griffins are the only ones who aren't affected or harmed.
Just like there was no apocalypse, he shoots, he scores!
Okay, we were wrong about the end of the world and you were right. Can we please just drop it?
But Quahog itself is destroyed and they've run out of supplies, so they have to leave to parts unknown, even founding their own little town with their friends. I really have nothing to say about this, as it's a fun what-if episode, but this is more of a fun nitpick. This episode is even more jaded nowadays. The place where the Griffins settle is an old Twinkie factory, because of that urban legend that Twinkies never expire.
We can settle down here and build a house just like we had in Quahog.
And we can build a mall so I have a place to hang out.
And 2 Dannies so we can always say, let's not go to that one, let's go to the good one.
They do. The new ones expire after 45 days instead of 25. In 2012, yes, of course it's that year, Twinkies temporarily went off the market because the company that made them went bankrupt, but about a year later, they did go back on the market, and they've been back ever since. Again, it means nothing, but I do like to make jokes, so do with that what you will.
Oh, God. I really hope there's a hungry horse back there.
Okay, let me make it clear for the millionth time, harassment knows no gender. Women can be harassed by men, men can harass women, but for the longest time, the belief was that men could not be harassed by women or people who were assigned female at birth. Because clearly, if a man has his consent violated, he's asking for it. Unlike us ladies, Peter-assment, for as much as it tries to shatter this perception, does uphold it in a way where I feel perfectly fine putting it on this list. Because it just seems like something that comes straight out of the 2000s, like you would not be able to make this episode today. Peter's glasses get busted by Ollie Williams, and he starts wearing contacts in the meantime. Angela notices him on his first day back to work and starts lusting after him. And unfortunately, she acts on these feelings and starts sexually harassing him, and honestly assaulting him, because the first thing she does is touching his behind.
Kissed you before. I like what I see.
Okay.
Oh, no. I dropped my pencil.
Peter tells Lois, who tells him,
Peter, a woman can't sexually harass a man.
Why not?
I don't know. It just doesn't make any sense. I mean, guys like being touched by women.
And the thing is, since the episode never calls out Lois, I have no choice but to think they're following her lead. It doesn't help that all the way back in Stewie Loves Lois, Lois laughed when Peter told her he was raped.
I was raped.
What?
He took my innocence.
What?
That kind of further dates the episode for me. Now, if it were something like Lois fought, like in Stewie Loves Lois, like Angela just like patted him on the shoulder or something like, oh hey, good job, Griffin, and Peter thought it was bad then maybe I could see Lois's point, but no. Peter tries to find some way out of the Angela situation, and to his credit, he does say that she's making him uncomfortable. I hate to say it, but yeah, sometimes people don't know they're doing something wrong until you tell them, which it doesn't always help, but hey, at least you stood up for yourself. But all the people he goes to for advice don't help him, or they blame him for getting into the situation in the first place.
She wants me to come over to her house tonight to work on a special project.
I don't know, Peter. You give her all the power. If you don't, you're gay. You can't win.
Angela herself even tells him that if he doesn't get into bed with her and does God knows what, he's fired.
'Cause your car broke down and you need to wipe a cold soda on your neck to cool off.
Well, maybe I don't need to cool off.
Maybe you don't need to be employed.
But Peter takes a stand even if it means not having a job in the morning. In the end, unfortunately, Peter ends up fulfilling Angela's sick desires because she was doing all this because she was lonely. And then if Peter doesn't do it, well, she's gonna have to go in the garage and do God knows what.
I just wish one person was able to find me attractive. But that's not too much to ask, is it?
No.
That doesn't make it any better. If anything, this feels more like a hostage situation. You know what I said about Heidi and Cartman. And this episode made me throw up in my mouth. I'm moving on. And not only because of how Angela looks, even though I really don't think she looks that way, but okay. Weirdly, I thought about including the episode Screams of Silence, but for as much victim blaming as that episode had, even they made the point that what Brenda Harriet was going through was awful. They just had a really bad way of saying it and showing it. This one never really said that, and if they did, it was confusing how they did it. Like, I don't even know what they were trying to say. So it's getting its own section.
So, listen, I just found out and, I'm just calling to let you know, you might want to get yourself tested.
It's my personal belief that this episode spelled the death of the show, as they now had an excuse to write Peter as a self-destructive, lazy character who endangers everyone around him, but using the excuse of, oh well, he's disabled, he can't help it. As somebody who is neurodivergent, you actually kind of can. Like, yes, it sucks to say, but unfortunately, you are still responsible for your own actions, even if you are disabled. Simply because 9 times out of 10, you can be given proper education on how to act and how to conduct yourself. But okay, let's examine the episode. The Griffins host a game night and they play Trivial Pursuit. Of course, as Peter would lose, Lois switches his cards with ones for a preschool audience and Peter thinks he's smart.
Right, Peter, they are red.
Lois, what are you doing?
I switched Peter's questions to the preschool edition.
Good thing I just watched that National Geographic special on fire trucks.
Peter starts talking down to the other Griffins as a result. Hey, it's not my fault they're shallow and pedantic.
What is this, you gonna talk down to everyone just because you won a game of Trivial Pursuit?
Perhaps. I say this anytime I eat meatloaf. Anyways, Brian suggests if Peter thinks he's such a genius, he should take the MacArthur Genius Grant test, which means that if he passes, he'll actually get a bunch of money and he'll be a certified genius. He takes it, and well, it turns out Peter is intellectually disabled because apparently IQ tests now measure intelligence even though they actually don't. Well, no, the episode uses a certain word.
You're mentally...
Oh yeah? Well, would a mentally guy have hired a bulldozer with a drunk driver to level half of his house in celebration of his fantastic test results?
Yeah, guys, you really can't say that anymore, like at all, really. Like, this one episode I really don't think could be made today, all things considered, as edgy as it was when it first premiered. I mean, there's literally a song attached to the episode in some airings where the entire town gossips, and a song in the style of Bye Bye Birdie that Peter got diagnosed as being that.
Oh my God, what are they doing? Why are they trying to publicly humiliate me like this? I mean, what's the purpose? Ooh, shiny red ball.
Peter, watch out!
The only only thing I do think aged well about the episode is that Peter has to learn he can't use his disability as an excuse to do whatever the hell he wants and be destructive. His actions, unfortunately, have consequences, and he had his children taken away from him because if he makes it seem like he's an intellectually disabled, violent man, are you really going to trust children around him?
I'm here to take your kids away.
What? Why?
Because you're mentally unfit to take care of them.
No way!
Oh my God!
Finally!
But yeah, I need to point that out. So it ends up on the list. Like, if the episode was made nowadays, I feel like they'd probably be like, oh, well, Peter's, and they'd say the word, and they'd be like, whoa, you can't say that anymore, and then they just pick something else.
I'm so sorry, Mrs. Griffin, but Brian's injuries are just too severe for us to save him. I don't know how much longer he has, but I suggest that you all go in and say your goodbyes.
Why did Family Guy give me happiness and then rip it away from me like a baby torn from its mother's arms? I was willing to believe in myself for once in my life. And I was that one idiot at the time who thought the change was gonna stick, or stick to the end of the season at most. Give me back my Italian doggy! Life of Brian, if you were hiding under a rock, is that episode of Family Guy where Brian dies. He and Stewie find a street hockey game at the dump and decide to set it up and play, but Brian gets run over by a car and dies. Because Stewie gave up his time machine and he can't retrieve one part of it, Brian is dead for the time being, or for good as it seems. Oh no, don't sound too upset.
We're all gonna miss him, Peter. We're all gonna miss him very much.
Damn it, Ortiz, stop swinging at junk.
Now, Family Guy made it seem as though Brian would never come back. The Griffins moved on from him, Vinny was adopted in his place, and he even took Brian's spot in the opening theme. But lo and behold, 2 episodes later, in Christmas Guy, Brian is revived thanks to Stewie, and the timeline where he dies never happened. Obviously, such a thing was planned as a rating stunt, but many people, me included, because I was young and naive, thought that Brian was gone for good. Heck, apparently a good many people got Brian Rip tattoos. I wonder how they are doing right now. Wait, does this mean I need to get rid of my Egg Boy tattoo when Hazbin Hotel ends? I love Lil Frankie. But this left quite the impact on fans. At least when The Simpsons announced they were killing off a character, it was Krusty's dad, so as much as I was sad to see him go, it didn't really fundamentally change things. It's just that, you know what, I'm grasping at straws.
I'm sorry, Dad. I love you.
I love you too, Glenn. Glenn?
Sorry. Damn thing can't tell the difference.
Originally, when I made this list, I wanted to decide between the Jasper episode and the Ida episode, but I picked the Ida episode for reasons I will get to. Quagmire's father, Dan Quagmire, comes to stay with him as he's being honored soon by the military for his many achievements. Peter and Joe believe he's gay, and this eventually gets back to Quagmire, who confronts his father over this, believing he's lying to him.
Just tell me the truth.
I am telling you the truth. Now calm down, you're ruining this ball. You know how much I love balls.
All right, come on now, that's not helping.
Dan denies it, but he does say he is trans.
I am a woman trapped in a man's body.
Oh, come on, just be gay.
Now, I talk about this episode all the time, and you know my thoughts by now. It's kind of bad. But while Ida herself is honestly good trans rep by the standards of the show, as she's a down-to-earth person and pretty decent, well, on the other side of the coin, she really has no personality outside of being trans, which I do think goes along with a lot of the Family Guy humor, but if they're trying to be, like, progressive, you're not really doing it. But for a show like this, she is still a step in the right direction when you compare her to, say, Jasper. Because Jasper, they don't really show him and Ricardo. They just kind of make the point Jasper wants to get married so he can bang 24/7. Like, yeah, I'm sure that's gonna appeal to people. Meanwhile, it doesn't help about how the Griffins react to her, Lois especially.
Gay. It's totally different.
Sounds the same.
Well, it's not. Okay, this is not the help I came over here for.
Well, look, let's just all agree that he's odd, huh?
No, it is one thing to have them be like this and then have a progressive episode. That's how It's Always Sunny gets away with it, where they make the point the people the gang usually goes up against are just normal people and the gang are kind of evil and there's a reason why they are where they are. But the episode never makes the point that the Griffins are in the wrong for what they say. Meanwhile, you also have the scene of Brian calling Ida a sex offender because he slept with her and she didn't disclose she was trans. And they don't even say it's something like, oh, I just don't like it because that's Quagmire's parent. He's just like, no.
How does this happen? When they move to a new place, they're supposed to notify the neighborhood. That's how it works. He didn't actually move. He's just visiting.
Wow, way to be progressive. But while that would already be enough to add it to the list, that's not the main reason. The main reason I added it was because Family Guy later had to apologize for how they portrayed trans people. In TransFed, Peter ends up masquerading as a trans woman in order to get free things and attention. And it's Ida who has to tell him why it's wrong to exploit the struggles of actual trans people, because unfortunately, many of them are still persecuted, and Peter never had to go through the same things they did.
You've been dealing with it your whole life.
And my story, to one degree or another, is every transgender person's story. And all those stories are the price of admission to finally feeling at peace.
Which, while people have problems with the episode, me included, I do think what they're doing here is a major step forward for the show. And then you have Brida, where the Griffins outright say they don't care if Brian and Ida are together because times have changed, so who cares?
Like, I know Brian was squeamish about sleeping with a trans woman before, but it's 2019 now.
Wow, Brian and Ida. Good for them.
Well, that's a relief.
With South Park, I thought it was big of them to have episodes like Time to Get Cereal, where they apologize for their past takes, because people's values can change, and I think it's a very hard thing to admit you were wrong. But they admitted they were wrong, and they apologized to the right people. And for Family Guy, I'll admit the same thing. Good for them. Keep on doing what you're doing.
Okay?
Yeah, I think so.
The Quahog cable television transmitter. Uh-oh.
Wow, I totally forgot about this episode, like no joke. Family Guy first aired in 1999, and back then there was no streaming. Only cable, Blockbuster, and occasionally satellite. But if something happened to the satellite, well, stuff would hit the wall if you catch my drift. What would people have to do? Read? Oh my goodness. In this episode, Peter teaches Meg how to drive, and in the process, Peter ends up crashing into a satellite and depriving the town of Quahog of cable.
Oh, well, at least that bought us some time. She did it.
What? Dad, you were the one driving.
I was teaching her to drive, and she lost control of the car. Come on, you guys.
The episode shows that Peter and the town really struggle with not having it, with Peter himself going through withdrawal and having to invent new things to do to occupy his time.
Doesn't really matter what we say. I'm the Lord Jesus Christ.
Well, Tom, I just plain don't like black people.
You guys, we're still on in Boston?
The thing is, yeah, you honestly could not do this nowadays, like at all. Do I even need to say why? Probably. Okay, I will. Unfortunately, cable is dying as much as journalism, and streaming is reigning supreme. Some people don't even have cable because it's that expensive now. Like, I'll be honest, I don't have a cable box. I haven't had one for the first time in 25 years. I only have a little thing for internet, that's it. The only time I watch cable anymore is when I stay at a hotel. So if Peter destroyed cable today, I could see the entire town just shrugging their shoulders and being like, okay, who cares? I was gonna watch Netflix anyways. The impact wouldn't really hit the same. Plus, even if you got rid of the internet, there's cellular data. I think the only thing they do differently nowadays is like Peter destroys like a cell phone tower or something. And even then they still have internet, so they'd have to figure out something in that case. I mean, some people download episodes of streaming sites, some people pirate stuff. Heck, aren't there those little boxes where you pay $50 like once and then you get like unlimited shows, even if they're not on streaming? Regardless, I don't think a plot like this could happen nowadays. Or it could, but yeah, nobody cares. And the one lone family who still watches cable tries to get revenge on Peter or something. Oh my god, this writes itself. Y'all are giving me ideas. Come on, keep them coming, keep them coming.
He has cancer.
Oh my god. Really?
Yeah, he's got a tumor in his head the size of a football.
I think I can see it. Well, in that case, I wouldn't feel right about throwing you out.
Family Guy is a show that likes to mock celebrities, and sometimes they don't just dedicate cutaways to them. They dedicate full-on episodes. And no, I don't mean for every post here to be negative. Sometimes I think aging a plot is good. It could be a good snapshot of how life was once upon a time. I mean, if I had to complain about Family Guy being dated for the references, I would have to complain about shows like South Park or We Bare Bears. Hannah Banana is perhaps the only time one of their full-on celebrity portrayals ended up being dated, and it's pretty hilarious how it came about. In the episode, Stewie obsesses over Hannah Montana, aka the public persona of Miley Cyrus back in the mid to late 2000s, and he begs Brian to bring him to one of her concerts.
But she's my favorite.
Oh my god, are you crying?
Yes, Hannah Montana's my hero!
Stewie and Miley become friends, but Stewie learns that Miley isn't a real girl. She's an android programmed by Disney to be the perfect teen idol.
Miley Cyrus is an android!
Of course. She's a product of Disney Imagineering. They built a perfect robot teen idol.
Yes, assuring that she could never fail.
Guess Nickelodeon stole their idea, as hilarious of a concept as that is. And it's my headcanon that Buckle from American Dad made her because he mentioned he used to work for Disney Imagineering. Brian, being the freaking pervert he is, tries to reprogram Miley so she can do adult things to him, you perv.
You think she does other stuff like a real girl? You know, if you reprogrammed her?
Brian, that's 6. She's 16.
I'm 8.
All right, I'll see what I can do.
And she malfunctions and starts destroying things. They do stop her, however.
Miley's my daughter, but Hannah isn't?
Right.
Great. Put your wig on. Shut up. This is real.
You're watching Hannah Montana?
So how did this age? Well, let me give you some background. Hannah Montana was one of the biggest kid shows to premiere during the 2000s, and it was still in its peak when the episode was produced and when it aired. Honestly though, I was not really a Disney sitcom kid growing up for the most part, like outside of like Phil to the Future or Zack and Cody. I was a Nickelodeon kid because I loved SpongeBob and occasionally a Cartoon Network kid. So I was like that one kid who hated Hannah Montana. Well, hate's a strong word. I didn't really hate her or High School Musical, I just wasn't really into it. The whole premise of the show is that Miley is a high schooler by day who happens to be a pop star by night, and the sitcom is all about her leading a double life, which admittedly I find kind of relatable nowadays. Airing on Disney and all, Miley Cyrus in real life was forced to have something of a squeaky clean image, which is why Hannah is portrayed the way she is here. After the show ended, Miley was kind of open about the fact she didn't really have the best time filming it, what with 12-hour days, and made the point that when she got her first period, it was on the set of the show and she was not allowed to leave, and she was also wearing white pants because her character wore white pants, so her mother had to come and help her. Like, that's kind of dramatic. On top of that, Miley spent a few years trying to shed her teen pop star image, and by 2013, 2014, around there, she was known for more than just Hannah Montana. Her new image, which is one you're probably now familiar with, is the raunchy adult one with the performance at the MTV Video Music Awards solidifying her new music. And considering the Yo Gabba Gabba episode of South Park, people definitely took notice. Heck, I took notice. Occasionally, it is funny to rewatch this episode and think, wow, Miley used to be different. But it's also fun to watch and think like, wow, we've come really far, haven't we? And so is she. From what I hear, she actually kind of prefers the new thing she does because she gets more of a say about what she wants to do, and it's her own image. It's not Disney's. She's not bending over to the mouse.
Hey, Mansion!
What in the world was that for?
Oh, it's a guy.
That's for ruining our son. He used to be a sweet boy until he heard your music.
Wow. Normally with these types of entries, it's just one small facet of the episode that ages, but what if it were both plots that aged kinda badly? Let's start with the main plot. The main plot is that Stewie and Brian end up in the army when Stewie unwittingly signs himself up for it, and also Brian.
Where do I sign?
Right here. Did I mention there's a $100 bonus if you sign up a buddy?
Really? Well, I think I have a surprise for somebody.
I'm not mad, just disappointed. But I imagine for a guy like Brian, who must hate the military, this must be a punishment worse than death. This being 2006, Brian and Stewie are shipped off to Iraq. And well, despite Stewie saying Brian should just stick it out, they both find they aren't well suited to army life. I mean, have you ever seen Brian ever? He folds quicker than wet tissue paper. Stewie, even if he is an evil genius, he's normally protected by his gadgets, none of which are here, and he's still a baby. So the two try to get discharged, first by breaking the Army's don't ask, don't tell policy.
Wow, look at how gay we are. I am so gay with my gayness.
Me too.
Any room for one more? Hell yeah!
If you're unaware, the policy was a super controversial practice that was in effect from 1994 to 2011. The don't ask part comes from the fact that queer service members could not be investigated for sexual orientation. The don't tell part comes from the fact that while queer people were allowed in the military, if they didn't say anything, if you were openly queer, especially gay or lesbian, you were disbarred. The reason? It would, quote, create an unacceptable risk to the high standard of morale, good order, and discipline, and union cohesion that are the essence of the military capability. Their words, not mine. And funny story, this was in the 90s. Yes, such a law was on the books until 2011, which is unfortunately way too recent. So obviously the two couldn't get in trouble for this nowadays, and they'd still have time to serve. But it's a small joke, and that's not the only way the episode aired. See, originally, Brian and Stewie only came into contact with the military thanks to Chris, since a recruiter came to the school to convince him to join. Because he's young, young, still in high school, and the style of how he was convinced, his parents obviously don't want him to join. So Brian, being the self-righteous liberal he is, who loves to take up causes, goes to give the recruiter a piece of his mind. And that's how they got the whole Iraq plot. So with Brian and Stewie on the global front, we need a subplot on the home front. Chris is encouraged by Peter to take up hobbies rather than join the army, and he ends up starting a band with a few kids, which of course causes him to change for the worst.
Now it's time for you to come inside and do your homework.
It's time for you to piss off, redhead.
Hey, Chris, don't talk to your mother that way.
Oh, way to stand up for your woman there, fatty.
So basically, Chris turned into his later season self 10 seasons too early. Sucks to be him. Since the Griffins need somebody to blame, they blame Chris because he was listening to Marilyn Manson's violent music. They're those kinds of parents.
Marilyn Manson? Is that who's causing all this?
Yeah, it's all him or her's fault. Who does he or she think he or she is?
Surprisingly, I used to listen to him a lot in high school, and I'm fine totally. They go to one of his concerts to blame him for what happened to Chris.
Oh, this old story. If I had a nickel. All right, where's your son?
Contrary to their beliefs, and stage personas are a thing, and honestly, in my experience, even if this isn't always true, the people who play the worst people tend to be the biggest sweethearts in real life. Marilyn Manson turns out to be a perfectly normal guy who just happens to put on raunchy goth performances, and he tells Chris not to go too far next time and to listen to his parents.
Peter, when was the last time you and Chris here did something together?
Boy, I guess it's been a while.
Here's something you might not know. Children crave structure.
Good lesson, so why include this part of the episode? Well, Marilyn Manson has been sort of a contentious figure nowadays. In 2021, Manson was accused by several people, most notably Esme Bianco and Evan Rachel Wood, of rape. And while it's a whole can of worms you can Google on your own time, because honestly, it'd take up the whole video to explain them, other actors, including Charlene it's Yee, right? I don't want to mispronounce it. They were Ruby in Steven Universe, and they were also in House. But other people have accused him of sexual harassment, with 16 people making allegations of abuse against him, with 5 being assaults. But let me make the point that outside of court lawsuits, which usually become out-of-pocket settlements, he hasn't been formally charged with anything due to the statute of limitations. But that and likely a bunch of other stuff kind of soured public perception of him in the last few years. The reason they had Marilyn Manson here was because of the documentary Bowling for Columbine, where in the aftermath of the tragedy, many parents blame Manson's violent music for what happened, but it was through the documentary that his public image changed, because Manson sat down and showed the world that he wasn't the same guy he was on stage, and he was earnest that the problem with the handling of the tragedy was the fact that they blamed everyone but the perpetrators. Obviously, yes, there is a discussion to be had that actors or musicians are not like the people they portray themselves as, but I'm sure a few people would have problems if the episode was made today. Honestly though, I think even the fact they picked Manson at all, allegations or no allegations, would have dated things a tad, rather than making up their own rock star who probably is Manson without them saying it, because I feel like that would work too. Well, back in the 90s, Manson was considered the boogeyman of music, like to the point where a bipartisan press conference with senators of all sides of the political spectrum tried to inform parents about the impact he had on young children, and how apparently satanic rituals happened at his concerts and how his music needed to be banned. But nowadays, we know it's probably not as bad as we made it out to be, and there's other people we can bully. No, you know what I mean, from their perspective. So while I think parents blaming everyone but themselves for their kids acting out has aged very well, I don't think adding Manson did the trick.
Sleep tight, firefly. Sleep tight, chair. Sleep tight, bird. You see that, Peter? You see the bird?
Bird!
When Family Guy isn't making its humor on stereotypes, they usually are via TV and movie references, and while I do thank Family Guy and American Dad for getting me into a lot of my favorite shows and movies, especially Rocky Horror, well, you still need to be fair and say that some parts have aged. Parodies aside, because I think parodies are more subjective, that doesn't really factor in for me, well, I do think this episode is a tad dated in the same way Channel Chasers from Fairly Odd Parents is, where it's still a good product, but the references don't really hold up. Peter and the Griffins watch a lot of TV, and we mean a lot of TV. Come on, name me a later season episode where we start with the family not watching TV in order to set up a cutaway or the plot for Act 1. I'm sure you can. So it's only natural that in the episode ratings guide, the family gets chosen to have a Nielsen box to monitor their viewing habits. But I'll let the puppet explain.
The Nielsen box will monitor your viewing habits.
I don't like the left puppet. His chin is scary.
If you don't know, the Nielsen Company is the organization known for monitoring the viewing habits of the average American household, which includes cable and streaming nowadays. It's how networks and advertisers can see just how far-reaching their programs are, and how they see just how many people are tuning in. And no, they aren't the ones who tell networks what shows to cancel or to renew. They just provide the data, and the networks are the ones who make the final decisions. At best, they're a neutral party. However, if you watch, say, the new episode of Game of Thrones, and they say, like, oh, 5 million people tuned in, you have Nielsen to thank for that. So as a TV nerd, I was super happy when Family Guy pointed that out. The family is happy to get chosen, but as Peter realizes, he has control over what people can watch.
And maybe a festive hat would make things more festive.
All right, this is good. Any other suggestions?
Yeah, can you end each show by trying to pull start a very cold chainsaw?
Well, no, it's only one household, so he doesn't really have the impact he thinks he has. Like, it's obviously an honor to be chosen, but one household won't make or break it. Shut up, Catherine, I'm getting to that. For instance, Tom Tucker comes by to congratulate Peter, and Peter makes the point he hates Tom's mustache, and he won't watch Tom if he has one, so Tom shaves it.
I don't know, my birthmark makes it kind of tough. Always caused me problems at my old job. And that'll do it for us here at Channel 12 News. Make sure you turn those clocks ahead. Good night, St. Louis.
Peter, you know that's a pain to censor. Wanting to exert his influence over not only Quahog, but the whole US, Peter ends up stealing a truckload of Nielsen boxes and plugging them into his house, and he uses his influence to get shows to bend to his whims by his own specifications, with even Brian commenting how he's ruining television.
Shouldn't have messed with television.
Well, it's not exactly your fault. The networks never should have listened to you in the first place. This is exactly what makes bad television, pandering to the lowest common denominator.
Is this how Family Guy writers take criticism? That was a joke. It wasn't very funny. I'm getting to the thing. Now, Ratings Guy is one of my all-time Family Guy episodes because I love reference humor, and I would love to be in Peter's position. But their approach of it has dated the episode a tad. See, with Channel Chasers, while they showed a wide range of shows, they made the point they were parodies, and they didn't just use shows that were popular at the time. I mean, Timmy got pulled into Fat Albert. However, Family Guy, being the type of show it is, uses shows that were popular at the time when it was airing or when it was being produced, like Cougar Town, Anderson Cooper 360, David Letterman, The Biggest Loser, Bad Men.
Whoa, hold on. Alright, just take it easy. This can go a couple of ways.
What the hell did Peter do to cops?
All of these shows have either ended their runs or they don't air on television anymore, and your only luck is streaming. So Peter couldn't very well influence them nowadays the same way he was in this episode. Not to mention that there are 2 references that were dated when the episode premiered. First, let's talk about Zach and Cody.
I think Zach and Cody would be funnier if they did the show in their underpants.
For reference, Ratings Guy aired in 2012, and Sweet Life, well, the first show, finished airing in 2008. God, I'm old. Maybe they meant Sweet Life on Deck, which was still a thing, but that finished airing in 2011, which means it was likely still airing when the episode was produced, as episodes take about a year to make. Then there's this joke, which was a bit more recent.
You can use these boxes for good. What the hell?
That's for adding another tree to One Tree Hill.
So funny story, One Tree Hill actually aired its finale a few months before this episode premiered. And what makes this part super ironic to me is that apparently the Family Guy running staff was this close to vetoing the scene. Seth MacFarlane included, since he and the crew were all major fans of One Tree Hill. But the animators insisted they keep it because they found it too funny not to use, and they won out. Again, I do think it's a funny episode, it's just that, yeah, you gotta point out this would be drastically different if it was made today. Even like removing the whole cable angle. And funny story, apparently Project Runway is still airing. I know, I was surprised too. It doesn't air on Bravo anymore, but it's still a thing and Heidi Klum is in it, so go check it out.
Damn these hands.
Mwah! Well, I haven't been to temple in a while.
This is one of those episodes where it happened in real time for me, just to show you my age. And for reference, I was on a cruise ship when I found out about the passing of Robin Williams, just to put it out there. Family Guy viewer mail was something they did around the end of the show's original run, where they did a 3-part structure supposedly based on 3 fan ideas. Like, what if we had an episode where the Griffins got superpowers? Or what if we had an episode where we see everything from Stewie's perspective? Which, I'll tell you right now, unfortunately, none of those ideas were actual fan ideas, but I'm not gonna hold it against against the show. I just think it would be kind of cool if they actually did an episode based on real fan mail. Anyways, what we're here to talk about is Robin Williams, because the other two segments honestly did not age all that badly. I mean, I guess maybe the first one with Queen Elizabeth, you can say like, oh, she's not the queen anymore, but...
Here she comes. Have at it then.
Crikey, this is a haircut fit for a queen.
Oh, bloody hell!
Yeah, so that's the only, like, real thing. It'd probably be, like, King Charles or something. Family Guy Viewer Mail Part 2 had a segment called Fat Man and Robin, where Peter wishes that everyone in the world could be Robin Williams.
I wish everyone was Robin Williams!
Boy, that looks enticing.
The next morning, Peter gets his wish as he can now magically transform people and objects into Robin Williams via the Midas touch. But if you know the original myth, you know how it ends. Peter ends up turning the whole town into Robin Williams, including his whole family, excluding Stewie, who just pit out.
Rupert, all we have to do is act like Robin Williams and he'll think we've already changed. Ha-ha! Scattered stream of references, lots of energy, one good one for every 10. Ha-ha!
And in the end, he's been rendered insane. The only way he can go on with his life is by cutting off both of his hands in order to make sure he can't make any more clones.
Peter, can you pass the coffee?
Sure, Brian the dog. Anything for my family.
So, why is this dated? Well, first off, let's take a look at this joke.
I guess Disney wouldn't let us do the Aladdin one.
At the time, Fox wasn't owned by Disney, who owned the rights to the Aladdin that Robin Williams was in, and that's a whole can of worms. And Disney is very stingy when it comes to copyright, so Stewie's joke would make sense. Nowadays, he'd probably be like, oh yeah, the mouse told us we had to use the genie, or oh, the mouse upstairs told us we couldn't use the genie. But what's the other problem? Well, as an episode predicated on a celebrity appearance, the entire segment is based on Robin Williams and his lengthy career. And Robin Williams was a phenomenal entertainer and a very inspirational man who did a lot of good in the world, even if it was just making people laugh. But tragically, he took his own life on August 11th, 2014 due to severe depression and Lewy body's dementia. It didn't help that reports came out that there was a pocket knife found on his body and marks on his wrists. And keep in mind, in the episode, Peter cut off both of his hands. And for reference, this episode aired on May 20th, 2012, and it was likely produced in 2011, so they really had no way of knowing any of this would happen. But it did. And what's interesting is how it got reported. See, on BBC 3, where Family Guy airs its UK reruns, a repeat of the episode was shown, not just on the same day when his death was announced, but minutes after, as the episode aired at 23:25 British time, or 11:25 PM. And his death was announced in the UK literally half an hour later at 11:50 PM. It was to the point where the BBC had to release a statement saying the episode ended just as the news broke about his death. This was a repeat that we have shown a couple of times before, so who could have planned that? It was scheduled more than 2 weeks ago, so it is just an uncanny coincidence. Some of our people who work here noticed that the death of Robin Williams was announced just as the episode ended. It was due to be repeated on Friday, but we will not be showing it now. Funny story, on the day Johnny Hardwick's death was announced, literally after it was announced, the King of the Hill episode that aired on FXX was The Exterminator, where Dale ends up fainting and almost dies, and he's told that if he keeps doing what he's doing, he's going to die. Just putting it out there. And as for the American front, well, I remember it well. Adult Swim was supposed to air it the next night, as they aired all the episodes in order. And the last episode aired the night before was T. Peter, meaning this one would be next. I kept thinking, like, what were they gonna do? Were they just gonna air it and add like a little tribute to Robin Williams? Would they not air it at all? Instead, they aired Family Guy, but we got a repeat of Chitty Chitty Death Bang, which I guess is a little bit better. And I'm glad they were able to avoid it over here in the States, but until I wrote the script, I had no idea about the BBC thing, so wow, this really aged.
Okay, you're good to go.
Okay, this is a lot to unpack, and funny story, it's actually what got me to write the whole list. And the thing is, I was around for this when it happened, I just didn't know all the details. Like I said above, when Family Guy isn't doing referential humor, it's usually stereotypical humor. But unlike The Simpsons or South Park, they don't really do anything with said stereotype. They just show it to try to be juvenile, like, oh, look at how alternative we are you offended yet? This episode tries to dissect a stereotype as harmful, while also promoting said stereotype. And not in an ironic way like like South Park with the Snook, where they make the point that yes, stereotypes are harmful, but this one time. Here it comes off almost like an afterthought.
You guys are uncomfortable with Mahmood because he's Muslim. This is your post-9/11 racism talking. I, for one, think it's great that Peter has enough of an open mind to have a Muslim friend.
Peter ends up in the hospital due to one of his harebrained schemes involving skydiving, and his roommate, or what do you call it when you're in the hospital, like your bunkmate, like whatever, the person in the hospital with him is a man named Mahmood.
I am Mahmoud.
I'm Peter. You know, I never seen a hat like that before, so I'm very scared of it.
No, this is just a taghiya. It's a traditional Muslim prayer cap.
Mahmood is a Middle Eastern Muslim man, and he and Peter really hit it off. They even hang out after they both get discharged. Mahmood introduces Peter to his culture, and to Peter's credit, because Peter is honestly a very racist man, he ends up enjoying and accepting it. However, when he introduces Mahmood to Joe and Quagmire, they don't get along because they don't really have a lot in common. For example, as a Muslim, Mahmood doesn't drink.
Alma Hayek or the other one?
Oh, but I do not pay attention to such things. I am married.
What?
Hey, you guys, come on. Let's get the man a drink. What are you having?
How about the ginger ale?
Oh no, how terrible. My heart just stopped. Did you hear it? But Peter persists and says there is nothing bad about Mahmood. Now, Mahmood, like I said, is a Middle Eastern man and a Muslim. And the biggest stereotype with both of these groups is that they're terrorists because of what happened during 9/11, which is an offensive, harmful stereotype that isn't true. Like, I don't know why in 2025 I still need to say it, beyond the obvious reasons for why. Now, an episode of Family Guy where they try to dissect such a stereotype and why it's harmful could honestly be good. They wouldn't be the only Fox cartoon to do it. I mean, look at The Simpsons. Or heck, once again, South Park. But you see where this is going. In reality, Mahmood is part of a terrorist cell in Quahog who wants to blow up the Quahog Bridge. And no matter what Peter says, Mahmood is going ahead with it.
He's the perfect man to help us blow up the Quahog Bridge.
Ah! Oh my God! Everybody down!
Joe tries to suggest Peter get in on the inside in order to stop the plan, but Mahmood catches wind and tries to force Peter to drive the van containing the explosives. Thankfully, they're caught and apprehended, and Mahmood is arrested. However...
Tell you what, let me call Horace and tell him to get our table ready.
Peter, did you just...
Let's go, let's go, let's go, let's go, let's go.
Peter, you were so good with the hay. Now, this would be enough at first for the episode to make the list, albeit bottom 10 rung material. But there's another reason it's getting placed here, and I think you know why. This episode only took a month at most to be dated. That's an accomplishment. In the episode, there's a cutaway gag where Peter says he attended the Boston Marathon.
I'm Bob Costas, here with Boston Marathon winner Peter Griffin. Peter, how did you do it?
I'll tell you, Bob, I just got in my car and drove it. And when there was a guy in my way, I killed him.
Yeah, not a good look. So, for reference, Turban Cowboy aired on March 17th, 2013, and on April 15th, 2013, so yes, less than a month later, let's say about 3 weeks, the Boston Marathon bombing happened, where 2 homemade pressure cooker bombs were planted near the finish line, and it resulted in the deaths of 3 people during the race, 3 deaths from the manhunt, including one of the perpetrators, 281 injured, with at least a dozen of said injured losing limbs, and all around, it was a horrific tragedy, and honestly, words cannot even describe it. But for reference, just to show you how bad it is, it's considered the largest terrorist attack on US soil since 9/11. It didn't help that there was a clip circulating on YouTube, which many alt-right podcasters promoted, of Peter during the cutaway, edited to make it appear as though he caused the bombings, like his car blows up, like they were trying to be like, oh look, Family Guy predicted it, which was so awful and insensitive that Seth MacFarlane had to take to Twitter to denounce it and say in a now deleted tweet, because I couldn't really find it anywhere outside of articles that were written at the time, the edited Family Guy clip currently circulating is abhorrent. The event was a crime and a tragedy, and my thoughts are with the victims. And you know if Seth had to say something about it, it's especially bad. Now, you might wonder what the big deal is. If that clip was making people upset, just remove it from the episode. After all, there was a deleted scene from most versions of Road to Rhode Island where Stewie distracts the TSA, and it features Osama bin Laden, and this happened right before 9/11. Well, it wasn't that simple. It didn't help that the episode also featured a Muslim extremist terrorist cell, and the perpetrators behind the Boston Marathon bombing were a pair of Muslim extremist brothers. Is it no wonder that Fox effectively buried this episode? Because they did. Next to Partial Terms of Endearment, it's the only Family Guy episode to be outright banned, and not temporarily. The episode was removed from Hulu, Fox.com, and Amazon, and effectively pulled from rotation. In September of 2022, it was eventually reinstated, but the damage was done. Think about it. it aged so poorly, and unlike most Family Guy episodes, it aged practically overnight. So, wow, that's an achievement.